The letter arrived on a searing Tuesday afternoon, delivered by a rider who looked like he'd wrestled the devil for 3 days straight out of Black Creek. Caleb Thorne stood in the doorway of his wind-scarred ranch house, eyes narrowed against the punishing Texas sun as the rider thrust an envelope at him. The man was gone before Caleb could form a question, leaving only the fading hoofbeats dissolving into the vast, shimmering heat. Caleb turned the letter over. The elegant script made his chest constrict. Elias Vance, the closest thing he had to a brother. With a frown, he broke the wax seal and read. Elias's words were direct. He wrote of Caleb's crushing isolation and how a man was not meant to face the world alone. Then came the part that made Caleb's blood run cold. Elias had made an arrangement. He was sending a young woman west, someone who needed sanctuary as desperately as Caleb needed help. Her name was Clara Mae Thompson, 23, educated, and skilled in running a home. She would arrive on the 15th, provided Caleb sent no word to stop her. Caleb read the letter 3 times. A mail-order bride. It felt like a cruel joke. He was 35, a man shaped by brutal border wars and the bloody years he'd spent as a bounty hunter. His hands were a roadmap of rope burns and powder stains. His soul was a graveyard of ghosts only he could see. What could he offer a woman besides harsh land, harder work, and a man too comfortable with the scent of death? But Elias was right about the silence. The ranch was dying around him. The 15th. 5 days. Enough time to prepare, or to send a rider to halt this fool's errand. Caleb stood watching the sun-scorched grass sway before retreating into the shadows of the house. Clara Mae Thompson pressed her forehead against the grimy stagecoach window, watching civilization surrender to the untamed wilderness. Her black mourning dress was a prison of wool. Her blonde hair was pinned into a bun so severe it made her face seem younger, more fragile. In the reflection, a pair of haunted blue eyes stared back. The other passengers had given up on conversation hours ago. She had mastered silence, learned to fold herself into the corners of the world and become invisible. It was safer that way. Redemption Gulch Station, the driver's voice boomed. Clara Mae's stomach clenched. This was it. The end of one road and the start of another, terrifyingly unknown. Elias Vance had sworn Caleb Thorne was an honorable man, but promises were brittle things. She had once trusted a man's honor, and he had shattered it. The stage halted before a plain general store. Clutching her single carpet bag, Clara Mae stepped down on trembling legs. You, Clara Mae Thompson. The voice was a low rumble, rough as unpolished stone. She turned to face him. Caleb Thorne. He was tall and lean, his power forged from labor, not leisure. His dark hair curled at the collar of his dusty shirt, and his storm-gray eyes examined her with a profound weariness she recognized in her own soul. Yes, she whispered. He gave a single, curt nod, reaching for her bag with a gentleness that startled her. He loaded it onto a buckboard wagon, then offered a hand to help her up. She flinched almost imperceptibly before taking it. His palm was rough and warm. He released her the second she was steady. The journey to the ranch began in a heavy silence. Clara Mae kept her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Beside her, Caleb held the reins with a practiced control. She risked a glance from under her lashes. He seemed calm, yet there was a coiled tension about him. Elias didn't say much, Caleb finally said. Only that you needed a new start. He didn't say from what. Yes, she replied, softening her sharp tone. That's correct. He asked nothing else. The prairie rolled on, a vast canvas of gold and brown. To Clara Mae, the immensity was both paralyzing and liberating. No walls. No locked doors. No heavy footsteps pacing outside her room in the dead of night. That's the ranch, Caleb said at last. She looked. A sturdy log house with a stone chimney, a large barn, and a garden fighting a losing battle with weeds. It wasn't grand, but it was solid. It looked safe. But she also saw the broken shutter, the faded laundry on the line, the subtle signs of neglect. My father passed on 3 months ago, Caleb stated. "I've been managing as best I can." "I'm sorry for your loss," Clara May murmured, and she meant it. Caleb halted the wagon by the porch. "You can have my father's room," he said. "It's the biggest. I'll take the cot in the back." "That isn't necessary." It is his tone left no room for debate. "You'll need your privacy." Inside, the house smelled of old wood smoke and dust. The furniture was simple, well-made, and coated in a thin film of neglect. "I can cook," Clara May offered immediately, desperate to prove her utility. "And mend, and tend a garden. I work hard." "Easy," Caleb's voice was quiet. "I'm not looking for a hired hand, Miss Thompson. Just help." The unexpected kindness nearly broke her. She had arrived braced for orders and demands. He was offering her space instead. "I'll be in the barn if you need anything," he said, setting her bag down. "Supper's at sundown." When the door closed, Clara May stood motionless, her heart pounding. She pressed her palm against the worn quilt on the bed. For the first time in 7 years, the door before her had no lock, and in that simple absence, she felt a sliver of freedom so potent it made her dizzy. The days that followed fell into a quiet, unspoken rhythm. She would rise before dawn to light the fire and prepare breakfast. Caleb would already be gone, a phantom tending to his cattle or mending distant fences. They ate in silence, then separated for their duties. She scrubbed, mended, and coaxed life back into the withered garden. He spent long hours under the sun with the herd or repairing the barn. It was a careful ballet of avoidance, each respecting the invisible walls the other had built. 2 weeks passed before Caleb, lingering over his coffee, broke the routine. "We're riding into Redemption Gulch. You've been shut up in this house too long." The idea sent dread coiling in Clara May's stomach. Faces meant questions. Questions led to whispers. But when she met Caleb's gaze, she saw a deep-seated need for normalcy, so she simply nodded. The moment Caleb helped her from the buckboard in town, she felt it, the sudden halt in conversation, the turning of heads, the weight of a dozen pairs of eyes. "Caleb Thorne, for heaven's sake," a warm voice boomed. A stout woman in a flour-dusted apron bustled out of the bakery. "I'm Mrs. Gable. You never told us you'd gone and gotten married." Caleb touched the brim of his hat. "This is Clara May." More people gathered, their curiosity a palpable force. Clara May answered their questions with practiced vagueness. "Missouri. A mutual acquaintance." Texas was vast. Beside her, Caleb stood like a mountain, his presence a silent shield. Then a new voice cut through the chatter. Thorne of it was a tall man with a sheriff's star pinned to his vest. His gaze settled on Caleb, and a silent, heavy current passed between them. "Welcome to Redemption Gulch, Mrs. Thorne." The air grew tense. Inside the general store, Clara May tried to focus on bolts of cotton, but whispers followed her down the aisle. Surprised he found anyone willing to take him on, a woman's sharp voice hissed. "Hush, Martha," another chided. The war left scars on many a man. Scars, maybe. But some ledgers are written in red ink, and that don't wash out. That poor thing likely has no idea what she's walked into. Clara May's fingers tightened on a bolt of calico. "That don't wash out." Caleb appeared at her side. "Find what you need," he asked, his voice low. "Just a thread," she managed. He studied her face, his gaze sharp and knowing. She knew he had heard the whispers, too. A muscle in his jaw tightened. "Get whatever you need. Our credit is good here." The ride back was wrapped in a profound silence. As the ranch came into view, Caleb finally spoke. "You're wondering about it." She hesitated, then nodded. "It's true," he said, his voice flat. "Most of what they say. I scouted for the army. Did things I'm not proud of. After that, I hunted men for money. Taking a life started to feel too much like a trade." "Why did you stop?" she asked softly. He was silent for a long moment. One day, I woke up and couldn't remember the face of the last man I'd brought in, dead or alive. It didn't matter to me anymore. That's when I came home. Clara May absorbed his confession. Strangely, she felt no fear. Instead, she felt a dangerous sense of kinship. That night, after supper, Caleb remained at the table. My father used to say a house ain't a home till it's heard a woman's laughter, he said, his gaze on the fire. This place has been just a house for a long, long time. Something in the foundation of their silent arrangement was beginning to crack. The next morning, the sky was a canvas of bruised purple. A storm was coming. Need to move the herd to the high pasture, Caleb said, pulling on a coat. Could be gone most of the day. Be careful, she heard herself say. He paused, looking back with faint surprise. Always am. By noon, the wind shrieked across the prairie. Clara May rushed out to secure the shutters. That's when the dizziness hit her. The world spun as a wave of blackness pulled her under. She awoke to cold rain on her face and strong arms holding her. Primal panic, born of old memories, seized her. No, she cried, struggling. Please, don't. Let me go. Easy. Caleb's voice cut through her terror. It's me. You're safe, he set her down at once, stepping back with his hands raised. You fainted. I was just trying to get you out of the rain. Her breath came in ragged sobs. She blinked hard, forcing herself back to the present. To Caleb, who had released her the instant she showed fear. I'm sorry, she whispered. Nothing to be sorry for. Can you walk? She tried, but her knees buckled. Without a word, Caleb swept her up again, this time with a deliberate slowness. He carried her into the house and set her gently in a chair by the hearth. As he knelt to press a cup of water into her hands, she saw it. His fingers were trembling. That small sign of his shock broke something inside her. I'm not well, she said at last. I haven't been for years. The fainting spells, they come and go. Caleb's grey eyes were locked on hers. What did the doctor say? Her laugh was a brittle sound. Doctors require payment. The man I was married to before, he didn't believe in wasting coin on what he called female fancies. Caleb's face hardened. You were married before. She nodded, her voice a thread of sound. He's dead now. But the damage remains. A blizzard descended 3 days before Christmas, a white fury that erased the world, trapping them together. By the third night, the silence was a suffocating weight. They sat by the fire, the storm howling outside. Caleb retrieved a small silver flask. Medicinal, he said, with a ghost of a smile. He took a sip and offered it to her. The whiskey burned a warm trail down her throat, loosening a knot she didn't know she'd been holding. My husband, my first husband, she began quietly. He drank as well. But his drinking was never kind. Caleb set the flask aside. How old were you? 16, she whispered. My father had gambling debts. I was the price to settle them. He was a man who cherished his possessions, his fine china, his collection of crystal birds, and me. When I displeased him, he never raised a hand. He had quieter methods. Methods that didn't leave marks anyone else could see. She took a shuddering breath. For 7 years, I was his perfect doll. When he died, I ran. But that night, when you carried me from the storm, I thought it was him. My body remembered the fear, even when my mind knew better. Damn him, Caleb breathed. He stood, pacing like a caged wolf. I've killed men, Clara May, he said, his voice raw. Dozens. First in the war, then for bounty. It became a hunger. Until I brought in a farmer who'd stolen a horse, and his wife stood in the doorway and begged me not to make her a widow. I saw the same fear in her eyes I'd been putting in men for a decade. I let him go and never collected another bounty. For a long moment, only the storm spoke. Then, Clara May reached across the space between them and laid her hand on his. "We're the same," she whispered. "Broken. Haunted." His large, rough hand closed over hers. "Then maybe together we can be whole." That night, she asked him to stay. Not with passion, but with a trembling honesty. "I get so cold," she said. "I don't want to be alone." He lay beside her on the quilt, both fully clothed. In the deep dark, his hand found hers, and she felt the tremor in his fingers. For the first time in 7 years, she did not feel fear. She felt safe. They talked until dawn, and by the time the sun rose, something fundamental had shifted between them. It wasn't love, not yet. But it was the fragile, sacred beginning of it. Spring arrived with the thaw, and Clara May's belly began to swell with a quiet, fierce joy. But with that joy came danger. Marcus Thorne, Caleb's estranged cousin, rode up one morning with 2 riders. His cruel eyes burned with malice as he waved a piece of paper. "Edgar promised you to me, Clara May," he sneered. "A debt to be collected." Caleb's rifle was in his hands before Marcus finished. "That paper's worth less than the dirt you're standing on. She's my wife. Leave now." Marcus laughed. "She was bought once. She can be bought again." Caleb fired. The bullet tore Marcus's pistol from his holster. "The next one won't miss," Caleb said, his voice deadly calm. The riders dragged a cursing Marcus away with them. When they were gone, Clara May's legs gave out. Caleb caught her, his own hands shaking violently. "I almost killed him," he muttered. "I wanted to." "But you didn't," she whispered. "You are not the man you were. You are the man I trust with my life." Marcus returned weeks later under the cloak of darkness, this time with more men. The dog's frantic barking woke Clara May first. Caleb was already reaching for his rifle when she grabbed the shotgun. "Stay inside," he commanded. "Not without you," she answered, her voice steady. The attack was a sudden explosion of chaos. Gunfire shattered the night. Caleb returned fire from the porch. Clara May stood at the kitchen window, the shotgun firm in her grasp. When she saw Marcus creep from the shadows, raising his pistol to aim at Caleb's exposed back, she moved without thinking. She fired. The shotgun's blast threw Marcus backward, his scream lost on the wind. By dawn, it was over. Marcus lay still in the dirt. Clara May stood trembling. Caleb came to her, his rough fingers closing over hers on the stock of the gun. "You saved me," he whispered. "No," she said, her voice soft but certain. "We saved each other." Months later, on a golden September evening, Clara May gave birth to their son. Caleb wept without shame as he held the child, his scarred hands trembling, not from ghosts, but from a love so profound it hurt. "You've given me a reason to believe in grace," he told her. "And you," she answered, tears tracking paths through the dust on her cheeks, "have given me freedom." They named him Lucas Elias Thorne. As Clara May lay back, exhausted and content, she knew the truth. She was no longer just surviving. She was living. Caleb kissed her hand, his storm-grey eyes bright. "The ghosts are getting quieter, Clara May. One day at a time," she smiled. "And the fear is fading, too." Outside, the prairie stretched on, wild and vast. But inside that small house, a broken cowboy and a bride sent as a cruel joke had built something fierce and unshakable. Love born not from chance, but from choice. And as the night drew in, Caleb Thorne's rough hands trembled once more, not from ghosts or fear, but from the miracle of holding everything he never believed he deserved.